It was supposed to be an ordinary Saturday morning. Claire loved the quiet ritual of her weekend swims at the old community pool, an unassuming building tucked away at the edge of her sleepy little town. The pool had been there for decades, a relic of a bygone era, with its faded blue tiles and the faint, ever-present smell of chlorine that never seemed to dissipate. But peace has a funny way of hiding darker things. The water was still when she arrived, as it always was. Claire liked being the first one there, before the laughter of kids and the splash of cannonballs shattered the calm. She liked the solitude, the way the water felt like her own private world, but that morning something felt off. The water was still when she arrived, as it always was. Claire liked being the first one there before the laughter of kids and the splash of cannonballs shattered the calm. As she dipped her toes into the water, a chill ran up her spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. The water seemed colder than usual, heavier somehow, and when she looked down it felt as though the clear blue surface was watching her. She laughed it off, how ridiculous, but as she waded deeper the unease clung to her, stubborn and unshakable. She began her laps, focusing on the rhythm of her strokes, the rise and fall of her breath. But with every pass, she couldn't help but notice the eerie quiet of the pool. No muffled voices from the lobby, no faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Just the sound of water slapping against the tiles and the thud of her heart echoing in her ears. Then, during her fourth lap, it happened. As she turned her head to breathe, she saw something beneath her, a dark shape moving fast and smooth, darting just beneath the surface. It was so quick she almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. Almost. Claire stopped mid-stroke, treading water, her breath shallow. She scanned the pool, the tiles beneath her distorted by the ripples. Nothing. Just empty water. Her pulse quickened. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling and thin. The sound bounced off the high ceilings and returned to her, mocking in its emptiness. And then it touched her. Something brushed against her leg, something cold and slimy. She screamed, thrashing wildly, and swam to the edge of the pool faster than she thought possible. She hauled herself out and sat there on the tiles, dripping and shaking, her skin prickling with goosebumps. Claire's eyes scanned the surface, her breathing ragged. The water, calm and glassy again, gave nothing away. Maybe it was just her imagination, a loose piece of pool equipment, but then she saw it. A ripple, gentle but deliberate, slithered across the water. No wind, no movement but her own. And then in the center of the pool, the water began to bubble. Claire's breath hitched. Her rational mind screamed at her to leave, to run, to get as far away as possible. But her legs felt like lead, rooted to the cold, wet tiles. The bubbling intensified and the shape began to rise. It was a head. At least it looked like one, a grotesque, pale visage with hollow eyes and a gaping mouth that seemed to suck the air out of the room. The rest of its body emerged slowly, impossibly tall and thin, its skin slick and glistening like something dredged from the bottom of the ocean. Claire scrambled backward, unable to tear her eyes away. The creature moved unnaturally, as though gravity didn't apply to it. Its empty eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, everything else fell away. "You called me," it rasped, its voice like nails dragged across stone. Claire shook her head violently. I didn't." But the creature cocked its head as though amused. "You did," it said. "When you came alone. When you entered my domain, you called me." The pool room grew darker, the shadows stretching and twisting toward her. The creature's voice was low and guttural now, vibrating in her chest. "I've waited. So long." Claire screamed, bolting toward the exit. She slipped on the wet tiles, falling hard, pain shooting up her arm. She scrambled to her feet, her only thought to escape. But when she reached the door, it wouldn't budge. The handle twisted and twisted under her grip, but it wouldn't give. She pounded on the glass, screaming for help, but the outside world felt impossibly far away. Behind her, the creature's voice filled the room. "Do you know what lies beneath?" it whispered, and she felt its breath, cold and rancid, against her neck. She spun around, pressing her back to the door. The creature was closer now, its skeletal frame towering over her, water dripping from its body in slow, deliberate plops. "Everything you fear, everything you've buried, it's all waiting," it said, reaching out with a hand that looked more like a claw. "And now, so are you." Claire closed her eyes, her mind racing. She thought of all the time she'd been in this pool, all the mornings spent cutting through its waters. She thought of the silence, the emptiness, the strange pull she felt whenever she was here. A terrifying encounter with a malevolent creature emerging from the depths, forcing her to confront her deepest fears in a struggle for survival. And then she understood. The creature wasn't from somewhere else. It had always been here, waiting in the stillness, in the quiet. It was the pool, or at least part of it. An ancient thing that had been sleeping beneath the surface, and now it had chosen her. Her eyes snapped open, her resolve hardening. "No," she said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. The creature paused, its head tilting again as though surprised. "You can't have me," Claire said, louder this time. "I don't belong to you." For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then the creature let out a sound, something between a laugh and a snarl, and lunged. Claire didn't think. She ducked, sprinting along the edge of the pool, her bare feet slapping against the tiles. She didn't know where she was going. There was no exit, no escape, but she kept moving. And then she saw it, the lifeguard chair. A red flotation device was strapped to its side. She grabbed it and turned just as the creature closed in. With every ounce of strength she had, she swung the device at its head. It howled, a high-pitched screech that made her ears ring, and stumbled back, momentarily disoriented. Claire didn't wait. She ran again, this time diving into the water. It was madness, she knew that. But something inside her whispered that the only way to end this was to face it where it lived. The water enveloped her, cold and suffocating. She swam deeper, her lungs burning, her vision blurring. And then she saw it. A dark abyss at the bottom of the pool, a swirling void that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. The creature was behind her now, its claws brushing against her feet. She pushed herself harder, reaching for the void. When she was close enough, she did the only thing she could think of. She screamed, an ear-splitting primal sound that tore through the water and into the abyss. The void reacted instantly, pulling the creature into its depths with a force that shook the entire pool. And then silence. Claire surfaced, gasping for air, the pool once again calm and empty. She pulled herself out, trembling, her body weak. She never returned to the pool. No one did. By the following week, the building had been mysteriously closed, drained of water, and locked up for good. But sometimes late at night, Claire dreams of it. The dark, swirling void, the creature's hollow eyes, and the quiet whisper that still echoes in her mind. "You called me."